The visitor pattern unlocks a world of flexibility, allowing you to extend functionality without modifying the core components. Imagine adding new calculations, validations, or even an entirely new kind of magic, all without touching a single line of code within the original structure. This ensures stability within the core codebase, while empowering you to adapt to ever-evolving requirements. Now let's delve deeper into the mechanics of the visitor pattern and see how it can be implemented to achieve these benefits in your own projects. Hi, my name is Gene and welcome to this channel. What will we be talking about in this video? First, we'll check the basics of the visitor pattern, and then we'll apply our knowledge by creating an example in the programming language Java. And after that, we'll create an example in Python. So grab your favorite coding robe, sharpen your virtual quill, and let's unravel the mysteries of the visitor pattern together. And who knows, by the end of this video, you might just become a visitor pattern sorcerer. Quick disclaimer, no actual sources were harmed in the making of this video. So let's take a look at the structure of the visitor pattern. The first thing that we need to define is an element interface. This is an interface that we need to provide to the concrete element classes. So what are concrete element classes? In our example, it brings classes to implement a method called accept, which accepts a visitor as a parameter without returning anything, hence void. The next thing that we need is a concrete element A, implementing the interface element. This in turn brings us to implement the accept method, accepting a visitor without returning anything, hence void. As we can have many more concrete elements, for this example we will create ourselves another concrete element B, implementing the element interface, and in turn implement the accept method, accepting a visitor without returning anything, void. Regarding the element structure, that's already it. So let's take a look at the visitor structure. So the first thing that we need for this is a visitor interface. This interface implements as many visit methods as we have concrete element classes. In our example, we have two element classes, which would be the concrete element A and concrete element B. None of these visitor methods return anything, hence void for both. The next thing would be to define concrete visitors. These are classes accessing the functionality of our concrete elements and building something around it or with it. So let's create ourselves a concrete visitor A, implementing one visit method that will take a parameter concrete element A, and also creating a second visit method that will take a parameter concrete element B. And because we can define as many concrete visitors as we want, let's create ourselves the concrete visitor B, also implementing one visit method for concrete element A and another visit method for concrete element B. That's it for the visitor structure. Last but not least, a client puts this pattern into motion, using the elements and the visitors needed for his case. Okay, let's take a look at the Java example. The first thing that we want to take care of is the element. So we will create ourselves an element.java, and it's not a class, it's an interface that lets us implement the accept method. So void accept, and here we take as a parameter the visitor, which does not yet exist. Visitor, and that's it. The next thing that we want to do is create a concrete element. So for that we create another Java file, concrete element a.java. It is a class and it implements the element. This forces us to implement the accept method, and in our case we will provide the class that we are in, meaning concrete element A, visitor, visit this. And as the class concrete element A has custom functionality, we will simulate that with another method, public string operation A, returning a text, concrete element A operation. Now we also have a second class, concrete element B, which also implements element, and for that needs to accept a visitor, and we will pass on us and also create a custom functionality. Returning concrete element B operation. Alright, so now we create the visitor, visitor.java. It's an interface and it has two visit methods, void because it doesn't return anything, visit concrete element A element, and void visit concrete element B element. That's it for the visitor interface. Now we need a first concrete visitor. Concrete visitor A.java implements visitor which means implementing two methods, one for concrete element A and one for concrete element B. Concrete element A, here we will output a text, system out print line, concrete visitor A, visits concrete element A. And here we'll execute the element operation A, and that's it. Now we need the same thing for concrete element B. System out print line, concrete visitor A, visits concrete element B. And here we will execute the operation B of concrete element B. Element operation B. That's it for concrete visitor A. Now we need concrete visitor B. For that we will create another file, concrete visitor B.java implements visitor, which also brings us to the two methods, system out print line, concrete visitor B visits concrete element A, and executing the operation of concrete element A. Element operation A. All right. Second visit, system out print line, concrete visitor B visits concrete element B. Element operation B. And that's it. What we now want to do is put all this magic together. To do that, we will create ourselves a main.java, having the main function, public static void main, take in an array of strings as a parameter, which we will not use though. The first thing that we can do is create both elements. Element A, new concrete element A, element B, new concrete element B, and now the two visitors. Visitor A, new concrete visitor A, visitor B, new concrete visitor B. And the only thing that remains now is executing everything by using the accept methods. Element A, accept visitor A, element A, accept the other visitor, and element B, accept visitor A, and element B, accept the other visitor, which is visitor B. And that's it already for the main construct. Due to the fact that this is a Java application, we need a manifest file to tell the runtime environment which class to start. So manifest.text, main class is main, and a new line. What we'll do now is create the build scripts for compiling the application. We'll start with a file that we can use under Windows, build.cmd. The first thing that we need is echo off. And then we tell javac to find every Java file and create a class file. And then we'll pack everything with jar, cvfm. We give our application a name, visitor demo.jar. First thing that we add is the manifest.text and every class file that we find. For those under Mac and Linux, we create a bash file that we call build. We address it to bin bash. And the rest is pretty much the same except for echo off. Now we create ourselves run files for executing the application. And we start with the one for Windows, run.cmd. We start again with echo off and java jar visitor demo.jar. The one for Mac and Linux is very similar. We call it run. And the only thing that needs to be changed is that we address it to bin bash. We're almost done. There's just one thing to take care of, and that's giving the execution rights to the files. This step is only necessary for the bash files for Mac and Linux. So we can first check what files we have. We want to provide execution rights for this file and for this file. Change mod, add execution rights to build and run. Let's check that. And here we go. We now have execution rights for both of these files. The only thing that remains now is building and executing the application. So let's build it and let's execute it. So let's take a look. We first create the two elements, then we create the two visitors, and then we tell each element to accept the visitor. Once the visitor A and once the visitor B. This in turn tells the element to provide itself to the visitor, and the visitor then executes his visit method that also executes the element operation. As a result, we have 4 outputs, starting with concrete visitor A visiting concrete element A, which is concrete visitor A visiting concrete element A, then concrete visitor B visiting concrete element A, which is the concrete visitor B visiting concrete element A, and so on. The same thing applies to concrete element B. Okay, let's create ourselves an example in Python. The first thing that we need is the element class. For this, we need an element file. So element.py, and we call it class element. In here, we need a method called accept, which takes itself as the first parameter and the visitor as the second parameter. Okay, Python does not allow the overloading of methods. As a result, we cannot create multiple visit methods, meaning that we need to change the visit methods accordingly. We also need to adapt the element code a bit. The first thing that we want is to get the calling class method. For that, we create ourselves a variable, calling class, getting the type of self and name. Let's name this, get the calling class name. It est concrete element A or concrete element B. As we use camel case for class names and snake case for method names, we want to convert this. Let's create a comment for that. Convert the class name from camel case to snake case. It est concrete element A, let's call it snake case string. And to convert from this format to this format, we can use the RE module for regular expressions. For this, we need to import it first, import RE, and now we can use it, RE, and to replace certain strings, we want to use sub. What we now need is a regular expression. And it needs to be raw, meaning that we do not escape backslashes. We do not want to replace the first character. For that, we want to make use of something called a negative look behind. So create a regular group. Now we need a negative look behind, which looks like this, this, and this. And the next character is what we do not want, which is this character, which means the beginning of a string. We also want a positive look behind. So we create another regular group. Now we want the positive look ahead, which looks like this, meaning that we want to find whatever character comes next. So let's create a class from A to Z, meaning that every capital letter from A to Z will be found, except if it's the first one. Now, what do we want to do if we find such a letter? In our case, we want to put an underscore in front of it. We also need to provide the information what string we are actually analyzing, and this would be the calling class. And as we are doing this essentially because we want to get the visitor name of the concrete element class, we need another variable for that name. We will call that variable method name. And it starts with visit underscore, and the rest is like the snake case string, which we want to insert using curved brackets, snake case string. And as this is a variable, we need to put the F in front of the string so that Python creates this string correctly. Let's give it a comment. Create the calling method name. What we want to do now is get the actual method. So let's create a comment for that. Get the visitor method. Visitor method. Let's make use of get attribute. We provide the visitor and the method name. And now we can implement the idea of the pattern by providing us, meaning the calling class, to the visitor. Let's create a comment for that. Provide the self environment to the visitor method, meaning visitor method self. That's it for the element class. The next thing that we want to create is concrete element A. So we need a new Python file, concrete element A.py. We need to make use of the element from element import element. Our class is called concrete element A, implementing element, and we define ourselves a method called operation A, taking self and returning the string concrete element A operation. That's it for concrete element A. Now we need concrete element B. For that we need another file, concrete element B.py. Again, we need to make use of element from element import element class concrete element B, implementing element, defining a method name called operation B. taking self as a parameter and returning a string concrete element B operation. That's it for the element side. Now we need a visitor side. For that we need a new file called visitor.py, and we describe the class visitor, defining one method visit concrete element A, taking self as a parameter and element A. Not doing anything here because we will implement it in the concrete visitor classes, and we need a second method called visit concrete element B, taking self as a parameter and element B. Again, doing nothing because we will implement it later. That's it for the visitor class. Now we want to create ourselves concrete visitor classes. The first one is concrete visitor A. .py. We make use of the visitor class, meaning that we need to import it from visitor, import visitor. Our class is called concrete visitor A, implementing the visitor, and now defining the methods given by the visitor. Visit concrete element A, taking self as a parameter and element A, and printing out concrete visitor A visits concrete element A. And then we execute operation A of element A. And that's it. Next we implement the visit concrete element B, taking self as a parameter and element B. Printing concrete visitor A visits concrete element B, and executing element B operation B. And that's it. Now we create ourselves a second visitor, concrete visitor B.py. We do make use of the visitor pattern. From visitor, import visitor. Our class is called concrete visitor B, implementing visitor. Now we implement the method visit concrete element A, taking self as a parameter and element A, and printing concrete visitor B visits concrete element A and executes the operation A. We also need the method visit concrete element B, taking self as a parameter and element B, and printing concrete visitor B visits concrete element B, executing element B operation B. That's it for the structure for the visitor pattern. Now we want to put everything together within the main method. For that we need another file that we name main.py, and here we need to import all the classes that we made use of. So from concrete element A, import concrete element A. From concrete element B, import concrete element B. From concrete visitor A, import concrete visitor A. And from concrete visitor B, import concrete visitor B. Now we define ourselves a main function. And we first create two new instances of concrete element A and B. Element A, concrete element A. Element B, concrete element B. The same thing applies for the visitors. Visitor A, concrete visitor A. Visitor B, concrete visitor B. And now we can have the elements accept the visitors. Element A, accept visitor A. Element A, accept visitor B, element B, accept visitor A, element B, accept visitor B. The only thing that remains now is to tell Python to run the main method. For that we say if __name __ equals __ main __. If this is true, execute main. And that's it for the main method. The only thing that remains now is to create ourselves two run scripts. The first script we create is for Windows, run.cmd at echo off. Tell Python to run the main.py. And the second one is for Mac and Linux. Run address bin bash and tell Python 3 to run main py. For the Mac and Linux script, we need to provide the execution rights. Let's take a look at what files we have. This is the file that we want to have execution rights for. Change mod, add execution rights to the run file. Let's check that. And here we go. We do have execution rights now. The only thing that remains now is to execute the application. For that, we say run. And we get an error. What is the error about? Okay, we try to find the method name. And we see that we have a little error. We have lower and uppercase letters, and that does not work in our program. So let's take a look at the element class. Here we create ourselves a snake case string, which is in the wrong format, meaning that we need to lower all the letters and rerun the application. And there we go, it works. Okay, let's take for reference the main method. And we see that the first thing that happens is the concrete visitor A visiting the concrete element A and executing its operation, which is exactly what we do here. Visitor A executes the operation of element A. The next thing is concrete visitor B visiting concrete element A, executing the method of concrete element A, and that's exactly what happens here. Concrete visitor B being accepted by element A and executing its operation. And the same applies to element B and visitor A and B in this line. Now that we have completed both an example in Java and in Python, I would like to know if you have ever used the visitor pattern or at least something similar. So have you? Let me know in the comments below and share your opinion and your experiences with this pattern. Furthermore, you can read everything in this video at your own pace on my website. I have an article covering the same topic on there. You can find the links in the video description below, where you also find links to GitHub, where I post every single bit of code that I've made use of here. I'm happy to have you here though, because visual interaction is also one of my favorites. Alright, that's it regarding the visitor pattern. Did you like the format of this video? Let me know in the comment section of this video, and drop a like if you feel that this video has brought value to you, or if you just want to make me happy. There will be more topics like this on this channel. I'm curious about the content of the next video.